Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Geeking Out podcast. I am the Athletic Geek, joined by
Organoid Zero.
Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is I've been wanting to do this episode for a long time. I've been wanting to do this. Like, this is like the most. I don't know if egotistical is the right word for the episode we're doing today, but every nerd, every person in deep inside fandom has an affinity for collection. At least in some, some more than others. There's varying degrees, but everybody loves to collect. Everybody that goes to conventions on a regular basis, they love to collect. And everybody has those pieces of their collection that they're proud of. So this week on the Geeking Out podcast, we're going to talk about our crown jewel pieces of our collections. And essentially, full disclosure, it is kind of just a flex for some of us. Like, look
It
at the
is.
cool thing that I
It
have.
is.
But, but also on the flip side of that, anybody who's involved in this knows why we want to flex, because like this is
It's cool
these
stuff.
these are our Super Bowl rings. When you win the Super
Exactly.
Bowl, you don't you want to have you either store it in a very secure place, but every now and again you want to put the Super Bowl ring on and go, guess what, I won, I was on that
Yes.
team.
Yes. Exactly.
So we'll start with you. Like, what is one of the most uh
All right.
one of your
So
crown jewels of your collection?
I will start with a really minor one. So one of the crown jewels of my collection at Geekdom is the fact that I got to meet Stan Lee before he passed. So
Well, yeah,
that
we might be on the same wavelength with one of mine here shortly.
But so anyway, a cool thing that happened, I made out like a fucking bandit with this because you had to. There was a gift cert like a what I want to say, a ticket bundle thing where you bought this masterclass thing where it had your prepaid photo op with Stan, your prepaid autograph with him. You just went and you scanned all the protocol things, and then I'm not even that big of a fan of Doctor Strange, but getting this thing was awesome. This was in that gift container. This is by Sales One LLC. Official authenticity. It is the like a stage replica Eye of Agamotto that
Oh,
I
okay.
got in the bag for the ticket to meet Stan. So I was just like,
Nice.
holy shit! I was opening that bag like I've got like $400 worth of shit in here, and this thing only cost me $200. But yeah, that was one minor one. The other one that I can't show, I'll just put on here quickly before we can go. I'm a huge fan of Horizon, the game franchise. This thing
Yeah.
is downstairs and it weighs like 60 pounds, so I did not want to bring it up here because I'm
Oh
afraid of
no.
wrecking it. If anyone knows Prime One Studios, they make unbelievable statues. There is a Shield Weaver version of Aloy I got. That thing is like 30 inches tall. It's
Wow.
it's awesome, and I don't want to talk about how much it costed, but I paid for it in payments.
There you go.
Go
So for
ahead.
me, a lot of my crown jewels are comic books.
Yes.
Ones that I found. I have a bunch of different ones. Some were just eBay finds that I were able to acquire. Some were going into local comic shops and being, oh, you have that, and some were convention finds. So I'm just gonna do some of my comic books with my first one. And since you already mentioned meeting Stan Lee, and we're gonna
Oh,
have an episode um, about convention stories in more
yes.
depth in the future.
Yes.
But this was, I got Secret
Ooh.
Wars number 8. Um, I
Very
bought
nice.
this at my first ever convention was Wizard World St. Louis 2013.
That was your
Um,
first. Oh, yeah, 2013.
2013, 13,
I was
13.
gonna say, that was your first convention. Holy
No, no,
shit!
no,
But
no,
it was
no, no,
13,
no.
13.
13. And I was gonna go. I get like I. So what really sold me on was Stan was gonna be there, and they had a you could do like a private meet and greet with Stan.
Mm-hmm.
It was like $300. I did
Worth
not have
it.
to. I worked at McDonald's at that time.
Oh, oh yeah.
So I did not have $300. I had to convince my mother
Mm-hmm.
to go get a small bank loan under the pretense that I would be the one
Pay.
making the payments on it.
Yes. Yes.
So she stuck her neck out, stuck her credit out. The smallest they'd go was 500. I think we had to because it folks, this is stupid. Don't do this. This is bad financial. This is a bad way to go about your finances. This is incredibly reckless and stupid. This you should not get a loan from like some of these places. Not that they're
Yes.
loan sharks, but they're not.
They are meant
They're,
to make money off you.
they're meant to make money off of you. Please do not do that. Do not support them. There are better places to go get financial assistance if you feel like you need to. But anyway, we ended up having to pay back like $650.
Oh,
I paid.
really?
I paid back. Yeah, I was like, that was that bad, but whatever.
Dang.
I got the 500. Bought the meet and greet ticket for Stan. Bought the ticket to the con before it sold out. And the whole time I'm like, what am I going to have Stan sign? I don't have, like I need to find something. I had like he wrote a book called The Last Fantastic Four Story. And I don't think it was canon, but I bought it and
Okay.
I'm like, okay, I'll go with this. But then I was um, looking, I used my income tax return money, saved it up. I had a side job at a hardware store that ended up I got extra money at and what have you. And
Yeah.
I found all 12 issues of Secret Wars 8, and that's what I had Stan sign.
That's sick.
But then he was editor in chief at the time. But then, in addition to that, 2 years after that, I went to Indiana Comic Con where Mike Zeck, the artist, was there, so I had him sign it. John Beatty, the inker, was there, so I had him sign it.
Damn.
And then the year after that, I went back to Indianapolis. Jim Shooter, the writer, was there, so I had him sign
Shit.
that.
Dang.
So this is a big deal to me. One, because met Stan,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, the way they set it up was like we all sat like in a circle. We did get free food and drinks there, which like kind of was part of my justification. Like, hey, here's a meal I don't have to pay for.
Yeah, no shit.
And it was milk and cookies was part of it. And I had like the joke of like Sheldon like on Big Bang Theory, like I'm going to have milk and cookies with Stan Lee. So I ate milk and cookies, and Stan had a cookie. So I did have milk and cookies with Stan Lee. That happened. That actually happened. It happened.
Nice.
But I didn't get to like go up to him when he was signing. He was basically like he'd go around and he'd answer our questions, and like his handler like, here, we'll take that. And to Stan's credit, he was very like delicate, hand it back. They would put it back in the bag and board. They treated your stuff with respect, or whoever's handler was at that convention treated your stuff with the utmost respect. So that's one of like a stack I have here. That's my crown jewel. From there, as people remember from our DCAU episode, I'm a big Dick Grayson fan, so this is the issue of the new Teen Titans where Dick literally decides he's going to stop. He doesn't want to be Robin anymore. It's like, I can't be Robin. I'm not that person anymore. Signed by Marv Wolfman and the late, great George Perez.
Nice.
I have that, and then in addition to that one, I have the first appearance of Nightwing, also signed by Marv Wolfman and George Perez. Met both of them at the same Indiana Comic Con where I met Jim Shooter. So that was really cool. I have a George Perez Nightwing sketch on my wall. That's not coming down. I don't really want to mess with that. But then in addition to that, this is a different crown jewel. This is one that like maybe you wouldn't recognize immediately as something that's a big deal to comic collectors, but this is Uh, Detective Comics number 395, Secret of the Waiting Graves, signed by Neil Adams and then Denny O'Neil, who felt the need to sign right over Batman's
Of
face. Go
course.
figure on that one. Um, this book is the this is the book that kind of gets credited with making Batman go dark again, like
Mhm.
go more in a darker direction. Obviously, not as dark as where Frank Miller would take it in
No,
with Dark Knight Returns, but
not feeding Dick Grayson rats.
yeah, or it's even Dark Knight Returns is even worse than like this one. But it's the beginning of getting it out of the Adam West sort of camp style.
Mhm.
Excuse me.
Yep.
So I have this signed by, again, this is kind of more of a, you got to be kind of deep, much deeper, like really deep to know the significance of this one, but it's up there. And then the last two books I'm going to show off. Um, I have Avengers Annual number 10. It's the first appearance of Rogue, and it's signed
Oh
by
shit.
Chris Claremont. He actually wrote this issue. And then in addition to that, that one I just got off eBay. Same thing with Secret of the Waiting Graves. The first Nightwing I got off eBay. The one where Dick puts being Robin. My grandfather, we used to have um a factory that would print comic books
Really?
locally that he worked at. He worked at the printing place, and he would get to take stacks of comic books home with him at some point in time. And when I started getting into comics, he found like a bunch of them, and that was one of them that just he happened to have. So
Nice.
that one's cool. And then this one, I got Uncanny X-Men number 266, the first appearance of Gambit, also signed by Chris Claremont.
Never mind.
Um, so this one, um, this was made. Acquiring this comic book was maybe the worst fandom experience of my life, or one of the worst
Oh
fandom
no.
experiences of my life. So, again, this is pre. This is the same year that I was going to meet Stan, and I worked at McDonald's. Got my income tax return, divvied it out like, okay, hotel's going to cost this. There's going to be people at the con, this, and this. And then, like, I kind of had, excuse me, like $150 left over. So rather than me keeping that in this con fund and, realizing like, hey, you might need some more stuff at the con, me and my friends went to, there were two comic shops close by. There was one that I really liked that I eventually got a pull list from.
Nice.
And then there was one that I hated.
Okay.
And it was more of a, like, it was a comic slash tabletop gaming slash card gaming store. Nothing wrong with that. That's not why I disliked it. But you got a lot of pretentious assholes that would go into that
Yep.
store.
Yep.
Um, and I went in there and I was talking with the guy who, like, one of the workers there. And he's like, is there anything that I can help you find? And I'm like, I'm just going to throw this Hail Mary out there. Do you have Uncanny X-Men number 266? He's like, and the first thing is he doesn't even like know what that is, which is fine. Like, I'm not going to
Yeah.
gatekeep knowing what issue this is off the top of your head. It's
No.
like, check the long boxes if you went back. He's like, oh, well, it's the first appearance of Gambit, so like, I figure that one be on like, oh yes, indeed, we do have that. Just follow me. He was like comic book guy. That dude's like comic book guy from Simpsons.
Okay.
And he gets it off the wall, and he's like, there you go. We're asking $50 for this one. I'm like, I didn't try to hassle. Like, is it negotiable? He's like, $50 is the fairest we're going to part with that one. I'm like, okay. I get it out, look at it. It's not near mint, but it's all there. It's in good shape. I get on my iPhone and kind of cross check, where what it goes for on eBay at that.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's not, all things considered, it was a fair price. I'll get to him.
Yeah.
And as he's getting ready to ring me up, he's like, so you understand you're wasting $50 on the first appearance of the worst character that Marvel ever created.
What?
Yeah, I'm like, I love Gambit. He's like, I don't understand anyone that he's like the epitome of just lowbrow, low cut sort of hero. There's nothing. He is the epitome of '90s cornball. I don't understand why you would like this. He throws cards. There's nothing interesting about that at the slightest.
I'm like, that same time period brought out Adam X the Extreme. Like, what are we talking about, cornball? What are we? What?
And he's just like, like the fact that the fact that he's such a terrible character that they barely even use Gambit in proper X-Men lore currently shows like why this is one of the worst things that Marvel ever did. And here you are dropping $50 whole on it.
So you're trying to not make a sale at your comic shop, sir?
That's why I'm about and the reason that experience, I call it the worst. Like, I've met pretentious fans. I've met, be it in at conventions, at the comic book store, wherever. I've met douchey, hipster, pretentious people.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it's part of our culture now.
Yeah.
But the reason that I say that is the worst fandom experience ever is because, like, I could just tell, like, this dude was just a prick because he's like, he knows I'm a fan. He knows I'm going to pay the money. He knows he can roast me and make fun of me the whole time. And he knows that finding this book in front of me, without having to go deal with eBay shipping, not have to worry about it getting hurt, destroyed in the mail, all of those things, like, at this, finding the holy grail, my holy grail of comics, or at least one of them, I should say, finding it at such a good price right in front of me where I can buy it, walk out with it. I got the money. Like, I had the perfect storm. He knows, like, I can make fun of this guy, and it's not going to hurt me at all. It's not going to hurt me at all because you know what? He's not going to go, yep, you know what? You're right. Keep it. That ain't worth no $50. So either he switches me to where I, and has the flex of, I told this loser that liked Gambit, how bad Gambit was, and I convinced him. And he even decided not to buy the first appearance of the garbage character. He either wins that or he gets to go, I made fun of this guy for liking this stupid character. And he still bought it and he just took it. So that's why, if you hear, hey, guy from Castle Perilous, Carbondale, Illinois, here we go, motherfucker. If you ever run across this, you are a pretentious prick. And you know what? Gambit fucking rules. Chris Claremont thinks Gambit fucking rules. I respect Chris Claremont. I don't respect you. So, fuck you, dude. There's my promo. And you know what? I do love this comic, and I still have it. And here it is on this show, me still flexing on it. And you know what? You can make fun of me all you want. On that day, in March of 2013, you still found a way to make a Gambit fan happy. So you know what? Live with that.
Oh, God.
Gambit
God,
rules.
Gambit
and Rogue both rule.
Yes. That was awesome. Full on barrel down the camera. That's awesome.
Yeah. That is what we call cutting a promo.
It is. That was spectacular.
But yeah, that's I have so many more that I just don't want to get it. Like they're very important. There's like little stuff like I have when Hal Jordan met Alan Scott for the first time in comics. I have, the first Frank Miller the episode of Spectacular Spider-Man with the guest appearance from Daredevil that Frank Miller wrote, which is his first time writing anything Daredevil at all. I have Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. #1. I have Green Lantern, Green Arrow, the first and last of the Neil Adams, Denny O'Neil run off that. I have the first one. Not a lot of people know this. That run actually continued with Denny O'Neil and Mike Grell, rather. I'm sorry.
Yes.
And I have the first one that Grell and O'Neill worked on. I have like a lot of really good stuff, like just scouring through long boxes.
Keep talking.
I
I'm
have
gonna grab something. Another thing to
yeah.
show. Keep talking.
I just recently in November bought the Tick #1 for $15. I love the Ticks, so I have a lot of really good comic books out there. But I just don't really want to get them out, and now I got to entertain. I got the promo out of the way, and now I have to continue to entertain while while he's out grabbing his stuff. So how are you guys? This better be big. He's really keeping the suspense up. This better be huge. This better be cool because we had an awkward silence that lasted like no other. Like this better top this. That's all I'm saying.
It's not, but the only thing that I had to grab is that you were talking about comic stuff that you had signed, and about the only thing that I can think of, honestly, that would come close to that the show was at so GalaxyCon is a well-known con by most people. They used to do it
one in Louisville.
Yeah.
In 2019, yeah.
GalaxyCon North used to be what is now Twin Cities Con.
Okay.
But apparently it didn't go well. The convention center didn't like them, so then it stopped during COVID, and then someone started over to Twin Cities Con. But before that ended, I got a reprint of this and got Jim Sterling and Ron Lim to sign it. So,
that's cool.
Yeah, that was about the one big actual like comic creators, other than Stan, obviously.
Right.
But I figured since you were talking about that, I had to go grab it with a one actual comic related thing that I had signed. I'm gonna be really honest with you. Probably the coolest thing that I have, and it's a thing that's readily available. Before I grab this, anyone who does not know the struggle of trying to get anime physical Blu-rays of certain series, they're stupid expensive, and it's because of Sony, and mostly because they own Aniplex and they just overcharge the shit out of them to get them overseas.
Yeah. I'm trying to find Gundam 0083 just on DVD, and that's like,
oh yeah,
I can keep the lights on to watch the DVD, or I can buy the DVD.
Yeah, like one of my ones I'm looking for now is Angel Beats. It's a 12-episode show. They sell them 4 episodes of Blu-ray in a different case separately. There's no conjointum. You have to buy them all 4 separate.
What is this? 2001?
Yeah, they're all separate. They're all like
disc?
Yeah, they're all like $70 each. So to get all 12 episodes would be like $280. But anyway, as I've said before, big, huge fan of Gurren Lagann. As anyone listening, I'm showing off the half sleeve that'll currently become a full sleeve. I've been looking up the big box standard collector's edition of it, and I've been staring at it on Amazon for like 3 years, waiting for prices to drop, and it just never does. And it's sitting at like $700 without shipping.
Ew.
For 27 episodes. Plus, like, they have these things, the parallel works, where the people, when they released the thing, they made up a bunch of, like, separate animations with the characters where they, like, it was in olden samurai times instead, or, like, some other things like that. It had the soundtracks, these different Blu-rays, these art books of undone art and all this stuff, and I'm like, I want that so bad, but there's no way I'm dropping $700 and going that. And then we went to a convention near me called Anime Milwaukee for the first time. And I'm like, wow, I might find some great stuff there. I'm like, I'm not going to find that box set, but I'm like, maybe I'll find a different one. So we're going around doing all this, making fun of the, they have a hentai hut. We're going walking around. and we get to this guy. It's Otaku Joe's, who goes to, at least around here, is known for grabbing all this stuff in Japan and then bringing it over and then selling it over here. So we're looking around at this, and I find this Blu-ray set that is the head of the mech, and it opens up, and it's got all the Blu-rays inside.
Nice.
And I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, that's significantly cheaper, and that's not bad. And I've like got my hand on the table looking at it, and then my buddy Chris is looking at me, and he's not saying a word. I'm like, what? Like, for real? I'm like, what? The set that I'm looking at's right here. My hand is right here. He's like, look at your right hand. And I look down, I'm like, holy fuck! The thing that I've been staring at on Amazon, because I couldn't see it with the top end here, nothing's on it, I just barely saw this. This is sitting there for $500. That's a significant price drop.
Yes.
And I had brought $1,000 to this con to spend. And I needed around 300 to get all the autographs and such that I needed. So I'm like, I don't know if I can drop half of what I brought on this, no matter how much I wanted it. So he's like, yeah, I get you. That sucks. It's just, that's crazy that it's here. I'm like, I know. So we go walking around the rest of the convention center, look at Artist Alley and all this, and then because I'm a neurotic freak, went back and just looked and like, ugh.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm hearing these people that are like, a lot like the kind of, well, I come around here about once every year and I bring around 15 grand because I know all the imports of this. And I went, I'm like,
Pin a rose on your fucking nose, bro.
I'm just, okay, I'm gonna go take this like my child. None of you are grabbing this. I don't care if it takes half my pay. Fuck that.
Yes.
And they just went up, bought it, and then cradled this thing like my child until we got back to the hotel room because I've been looking at it for 3 years on Amazon. But yeah, it's got all the, it's got
now,
these real.
I know we're gonna probably cover this in much greater detail in our when we get to our convention episode, but
yeah.
How did the rest of that con go? Like, you know, did you eat? Did you get your autographs? Were you living off of the dollar menu? Like, what happened?
No, I actually did pretty good. The autographs are even cheaper than what I thought they were going to be. I will tell you, it had one of the dumbest. They're not like this now. They're much better now. They just have honest to God lines and an entire room dedicated to just autographs. But back then, it was they had a cordoned off area that you couldn't even go in by where the autographs were being done. And there was like a front entrance ramp, or like a front entryway. And then you went and paid, and they stamped the back of your ticket like a pre-order bonus. And then you walked into the room, got your autograph, and walked back out. And if you wanted to get another one, you had to go back and do it again. I was kind of like, that's kind of asinine, but...
Like, why don't you just go there like, hey, I have 3 things I want signed. That'll be $200. Okay.
Yeah, but it's like, the same guy could sign a bunch of stuff, but if you wanted more than one person, you had to
that's so weird.
Through. It is very weird, but no, maybe
one of those ideas that sound better on paper than in execution.
Yeah, it did, because from what I understood, they stopped doing it directly after that, so I guess it worked out pretty well. But no, I ate good. They had some actually really good Japanese food there at vendors and stuff like that, and we were staying like directly next to it, so we didn't have to drive to all these places to go. But no, that was the first time I dropped half of my budget on something. But I came home and my roommate was like, "What'd you all get?" And I showed him. He's like, "Holy shit, you found it there?" I'm like, "Oh, you have no idea." And at the time, had just gotten a really nice TV. I'm like, I am watching my baby on nice Blu-rays for once on a good TV, and this is going to be a good time. so this thing literally sits here as my pride and joy. And I got this thing, it's about a half an inch from fitting perfectly into there, exactly how that shelf sits. It's like, But yeah, I never been so like almost scare driven into finally being like a force of going, go grab it. Someone's gonna take it. Go grab it. You'll never grab it if you have to buy it offline. Go.
Yeah. And that's kind of the thing is like it's not just conventions. It's like when you go to a sporting event, you go to a wrestling show, they have like stuff there where it's like, I normally wouldn't pay money for that, but because it's here, I'm going to buy it. Yes. Exactly.
You couldn't convince me from my home comfortably to buy that, but since I'm here.
Yep. So like a lot of the other stuff, like probably I mentioned that I have a George Perez Nightwing sketch. Probably one of my other crown jewels is, so I'm not going to get too personal into what I do for a living, but all I'm going to say is I have a union job in a part of the country where cost of living is much lower than in other parts of the country.
Hmm.
So therefore, my good union job in this part of the country is one of the better jobs to have compared to other places.
Yeah.
And there's a joke amongst all the everybody who gets a job like that in my area for, especially because it's a rural area, if you're a male that gets a job there, what's your first big purchase going to be? Are you going to buy a boat? Are you going to buy a truck? Are you going to buy a Harley? Or are you going to buy a gun?
Hmm.
Like that's always the thing. What is your big purchase? And I'm like, I got me, brand new gun to go deer hunting. Oh, I got me, a new Dodge Ram. Oh, I got me this new boat to go fishing with. Oh, I got me a Harley Davidson. I got me a side by side. I got me a four wheeler. Like that's where I live. I live in rural America, and the joke amongst my job is getting that. Me, on the other hand, about 4 months after I got this job, I was able to take the 2 personal days that I hired in with
Hmm.
and go to Wizard World Chicago 2015. And one of the guests that was going to be there was Neil Adams, who I'd met Neil Adams, a couple times before that, had gotten autographs, gotten some quick cheapo sketches, and cheapo for Neil Adams is still like $150.
Yep.
Um, I'm a big Neil Adams fan, but there is one person who's a bigger Neil Adams fan than me, and it's Neil Adams. And to it, and he knows what he's worth. I'll say
Yeah.
that. Like,
Yeah.
it's not. There is an ego there. God rest his soul. Or he'd probably be offended if I said God rest his soul, knowing some of his philosophies on the world. But that's neither here nor there. um,
Yes.
but I got like a in St. Louis, I was dressed as the Joker. I got a 5-way revenge print, and he did a quick Joker sketch for $150. But I'd seen the ones where, like, if you pre-order and go to the convention or have it shipped, like the work that Neil does, like he's one of my favorite, one of, if not my favorite comic artist of all time. Him and George,
Hmm.
and I remember thinking like, okay, I'm going to get not even the big full $2,000 full body drawing. I just want a bust of
Yeah.
Batman. Bust drawing, bat signal up.
Yeah.
And I email. I think it was his son is who handles all that for him. I send an email to his website. I'm like, I'm going to be here. How the payments work? He's like, what we can take payment options. We'll need 100 up front. I'll bill you with however much you want to pay after that. And then at the convention to get it, pay the rest. We'll take cash or credit. Okay, cool. I pay my 100. I pay, make my other payment, and then I come with my last bit and I get my Neil Adams.
Hmm.
So, and completely not fitting in with the vibe of a lot of people I work with. No, I did not get guns to go hunt. No, I did not get a big truck. No, I did not get a Harley Davidson. But I got the big ticket item for me, which is a Neil
Exactly.
Adams piece of art. And yes, I got made fun of at my job, but I also had like people that are like, hey, you know what, man, that's your thing. And
Hmm.
you got the money to get something like that. And I'm glad you got it. You
Yeah.
know?
That's like my best friend Abby Esper. She'll see these pictures that coming back from conventions and all that. So she's like, I do not understand what it is, but you're smiling, so I'm happy.
Yeah. So that's some of our big. I would like. This is just the wrestling behind me. I have another
Oh
wall.
yeah.
There's
Oh,
comic
absolutely.
stuff. There's other art. There's anime stuff. I got over here. I got NASCAR stuff. I got IndyCar stuff. I actually, you know what? I will show one quick thing before we get into the next part. Hold on, just because I brought up Neil Adams. Hold
Okay.
on.
as he was going on to get that, there was a bunch of stuff that we talked about that we wanted to show, but we can't because they're in various areas, so we're kind of careful with picking what we're showing because we don't want to lug stuff.
Yes. So I got two things because they're just real quick stories. The same Wizard World Chicago, which is that's a story in itself. Where I got the Neil Adams, but there was a lot of I think I've told this story on the channel before. How it really pissed me off about Wizard World, and it took literally Kevin Conroy to make me support Wizard World again. That convention made me go. I have no desire to give Wizard World any money.
Yeah, I'm never
The
going to Wizard World again after that.
yeah. Um, well, like Mick Foley has a philosophy of selling out is changing your morals for money. So he would always say, like, by me leaving ECW to go WWF at the time, I didn't sell out. I like wrestling. I like wrestling in front of people, so I didn't sell out.
Yeah.
So for me, took the philosophy is I didn't sell out by going back to Wizard World in 2017 when we met in Kevin's line. I love Kevin Conroy. I want to meet Kevin Conroy. Okay. It'd been one thing for me just to go back there and walk around and do nothing, that's selling out. But any hoozles, since it was in Chicago, they had a bunch of the actors from the original Mortal Kombat.
What? That's awesome.
And Johnny Cage is my favorite. I've always especially with this friendship where you get the Johnny Cage signed autograph picture. The fact that I essentially have that now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I have that, so that's cool. And the thing that makes it even better. This is the thing that makes it even better. This is the thing that makes this story from go already up here to through the roof. Free. They were free. You could go. They had the guy that played Johnny. They had the guy that played Liu Kang. They had the guy that played Jax. They had the guy that played Raiden, Sub-Zero. A lot of them were one and the same, and you kind of picked them. But Sub-Zero, which I think was Johnny too. Raiden, Shang Tsung, and you could go get all of them autographs from all of them, free.
Holy shit!
All, no charge, free. So that made it even better. It's this is a this is a holy grail thing I've always wanted, and it cost me nothing. And it's of all the shit that went down, of all the negativity that went down at that convention, that is that's a positive memory. There was still positive memories from that con, but of all the bad taste in my mouth I had walking out on Saturday and Sunday at that convention, free.
That's awesome.
And then we mentioned Neil Adams. One of his children was actually a character designer on King of the Hill, and he was at the same convention where I met George Perez, and I was in. George Perez he'd give you a ticket to save your place in line, and he would, you could leave. So while I was leaving, waiting for my time to meet George, I got a Bobby Hill sketch with him saying, "That's my purse.
That's my purse."
So, yeah, those are. I got flex on those.
There's a Wisconsin cosplayer that regularly goes around. He looks identical to Bobby. And he's known for being that guy. He cosplays him, and he has a really great, comic book accurate The Mask, head and everything that he goes around in.
Nice.
Forever in Wisconsin cons for whatever reason. Two of my last ones again. I'm a big statue collector.
I have a lot. I did have a lot of those. I'd always go the cheap ones, except for a couple, because I had a tragedy where a bunch of them, my bookshelf caved in and broke a bunch of my statues. So after that's I'm going with the $50 ones, and after that, once you have you see essentially $1,000 just shatter right in front of you, you're you know what, I'm done with the statues.
I had a close call with that. I have a curio cabinet over here that has Aloy that you get with the game Horizon, Ellie that you get with the game, Leon Kennedy with the RE4 remake, and with Arkham Knight, they had like a statue of Batman where you could hit it and the lights would shine up in it and it said Memoriam of the Dark Knight and all that. But
Yeah.
was showing like stuff like that, like any little minor things to go around. I'm a big fan of them. 'Cause I have a couple of rooms in this house
I'm sorry, guys. Mm.
that had built-in shelves just put into the walls. I'm like, that's pretty easy stuff to put in. But
Yeah.
that's why most of what I have to show off is like placed in spots where I don't want to touch them.
Oh yeah, I get it. You know, these weren't just like right over there. I wouldn't have.
Yeah, but two of them that I'll mention, then one that I'll show. I don't know if you remember this, but back when the MCU was starting, when they did the cool collectible Blu-ray things, like the one was the Tesseract briefcase that had all the Blu-rays in it and like the glow-up Tesseract and like files and stuff that were in the show. I have that
I remember
one.
seeing something.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it. I never.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Cool.
I didn't want to drop the money on it.
Yeah.
Just because, like, I'm kind of one of those. DVDs are meant to be watched, and if it's something so expensive that I'm going to worry about breaking it when I want to watch the show, I'm kind of like avoid it. But I can concede those that do collect that, it's pretty damn cool.
Yeah. And the worst part, I got that one. So phase 1 was in the Tesseract with the briefcase and all these cool files and all that stuff. The second one was the oh shoot. Which stone was it? It was a stone from Guardians of the Galaxy, the one that they crack open, the purple stone. But it was in that, and then like a little display case underneath it that had all the Blu-rays and all the extra files and shit in it. And then for phase 3, they never really did one. Because I expected them to do a big one with the Infinity Gauntlet, and they never did it. So I was kind of like, what the shit? Why aren't we doing this? That would have completed my set I have displayed here, but now we can't do it. But one minor one, and this is another cool collector's thing. Anyone who likes Berserk, but, you know, wouldn't mind reading it, but with a girl, that's kind of what Claymore is, to a degree. Claymore is great. The anime ending is ass.
Haven't seen it yet.
It is great. It is super accurate up to how the manga is up until like the second to last episode, and then they do the ending of The Last of Us 2, but badly. That's all I can say. It's one of those revenge isn't worth it, but no, it really was, and this isn't revenge. That person's a mass murderer, and we're not just letting them walk away. But when I got my big kick during COVID of watching anime, or like getting back into it, one of the big ones that got suggested to me was Claymore. They're like, watch the show. Do you like how it ended? And I'm like, no, that ending sucked. They're like, cool, read the manga. And then I read the manga, and holy shit, does it go on for what would be like another 40 episodes, but it goes on to be some of the most batshit. Not the brakes fell off, the brakes were never installed on this bus. And this person just never quit. It went on to the most batshit insane battles that went on for just book after book after book after book. And I need a revival at some point because A, it's so good, but B, you don't know this, but Claymore, what a Claymore is this woman that gets a thing called a Yoma. They get their blood spliced into them. They get special powers to fight these things. Each one of them wears a white suit. They have these white like get-ups. They have silver eyes and blonde hair. The manga is in black and white, and there is, I'm shitting you not, probably 80 different Claymores that get introduced, and they ran out of hairstyles after a while. So
is Drew McIntyre in this?
No. but it's like after a while, there's certain pages where I really had to fucking pay attention to who was what, because a lot of these characters don't die. So there's a lot of very similar blonde people with silver eyes in black and white coloring. That was hard to keep track of. But my mother, who I love to death, got me this collector's edition set of Claymore, which was just ridiculous. Which I had to tell her, I'm like, I've already read it, but it's just awesome. And it happily sits displayed because I don't need to open it anymore because I read it. But it's just one of those where I cannot suggest people enough. If anyone has watched that anime, Still watch it because it's great. The soundtrack's awesome. The voice acting's great, and the beasts are just weird. I will give or take that Todd Haberkorn. There's this character in it called Rocky who's supposed to start out as the most annoying, just fucking pest of a child ever. That Claire goes in, clears out this town because these things can transform to look like people. So he kills one that's a relative of his and then kind of takes
And
him
this is
on
who
because-
Todd Haberkorn voices, you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
he takes this, and this kid's supposed to be irritating. He's supposed to
Okay.
start out as a shively nobody, and then later on, I find out in this manga, he turns into the ultimate Giga Chad, who like is this big jacked up warrior that just kicks ass because there's a giant time skip. And then eventually, it doesn't happen in the anime, so if you want to watch it, I'm ruining anything. Eventually, like, everything is good. Claire wins, and she doesn't need to fight anymore. And then Rocky takes care of her, because he's this big dude that can just fight for her, so she doesn't have to fight for the rest of her life anymore. But I never got to hear Todd stop being a character I wanted to kick through my screen, which he was meant to be, because he's meant to be irritating, ever turn into this cool guy. Because that was in the era of, no, we're going to do an anime original ending and cut it off at like season 2 because we don't feel like finishing it. That was an era of animes that I hated.
Yeah.
The same thing happened with Soul Eater, but yeah, that was one of my last really big ones. I love that collector's edition. It looks so cool.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I'll transition to something of the next part of this is stuff we want to collect.
Yes.
And it's funny you mention you have a collector's set of all the manga, yet you've already read it, so you don't need it, but you want the collector's set to have the collection.
Exactly.
Something I have yet to acquire, which I probably just need to look a little harder, and I could probably find it online and maybe not break the bank, but I just haven't been able to do it yet, is I want an original 13-issue run of Long Halloween. That is my favorite. Spoiler, because we're eventually going to do Batman books, but, spoiler, that is my favorite Batman story. Maybe my favorite comic book of all time is Batman the Long Halloween. Yep. And I want the original 13 issues. Yeah. Am I ever going to read them? No. I'll go, if I want to read the book again, I'll go read the graphic novel. I'll go read the trade paperback that I already have. But I want all 13 of the originals just to have them because it's a collector's item.
Yes.
That is the mind of a collector. Why do I need 13 original books that you're never going to touch?
I don't need it. I want it.
Exactly. And unfortunately, Tim Sale's no longer with us, so I can't have him sign all 13 of them.
Yeah, no. I hear you on that. There is some just ridiculous, like, oh man, I can't think of it. There was the thing costs a lot, and I don't know if it's even for sale anymore. There was this company that made, for those of you that don't know the game Devil May Cry, I'm a huge fan. It's what got me into cosplaying. Nero is the first cosplay I ever did. He has this sword called the Red Queen, which is a bike with a motorcycle engine in it. So, like, you'd rev it, and then when you hit the clutch, the exhaust would kick off, and it would slice harder into something. That was the gimmick of it. So, also, because it would look really cool when you would tip the sword upside down and rev the throttle. There was this company that made a actual functioning, revable, like, gas-driven version of the Red Queen that costed, like, $2,500. Now, do I think they sell them anymore? No, because I think the person bought the one that they were ever going to sell and then get rid of it. But, yeah, that was one where I would love to have that somewhere so I could just show it off.
Right.
Would I ever want someone that would probably ever want to see it? No. But, yeah, it's just... And then, like, there's other dumb ones. Like, you talk with collecting comics that I'd ever needed them, like... I just think it would be cool where everyone would be like... Your favorite comic book hero, your blah, 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 this and that. And then I'd want to be like, hey guys, I got the first appearance of my favorite comic book hero. I'm going to go get it. And then I could just have the first appearance of Snowflame. I just think it would be spectacular.
I love that.
Like, just to have his edition, like, printed Perfect. Just to be like, it's my prized possession. Just this character that gets superpowers off of cocaine, I think it'd be awesome.
Oh, I know Snowflame. I know
I know.
Snowflame.
I just to have that addition, it would be my pride and joy to show people.
See, for me, like with stuff like the Holy Grails, I have yet to acquire. At least when it comes to comic books, there's two different masters or different. Yeah, I don't really know what the word is. There's Holy Grails that you never will achieve,
Mm-hmm.
like a Detective 27, and Action Number One. You're never going to get
Yeah.
that. You'll never get that. I will never have enough money to get that.
Nope.
There's ones that are likely, or I should say possible. There's probably three because there's one that's possible but not probable, and that's Amazing Fantasy 15.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could probably at some point in time, like I could find one in bad shape for $5,000, and if I really wanted to, I could pull that trigger. But $5,000 is still $5,000.
$5,000.
Yeah, and then there's, likely, but the timing's never been right. There you could still get a Hulk 181 for $1,000, $1,500, $2,000, which again is not like I'm not trying to throw out like I talk about my job being a good job. I'm not a rich person by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not trying to like act like I'm like pennies in the jar is $2,000. Like that's about 6 months of saving, and that's me doing without other things that I like to do, like probably streaming services for a little while if I want to save, or working more hours or whatever. Like that is hard to acquire that, but it's something that it's like, you can I can see that off in the distance, and yes, you may have to run up a couple hills, and you may have to cross a couple bridges, but I see it and it's there and it's possible. So those are kind of like what I want. Like the one that's most easiest is what we just talked about for me, and that's the Long Halloween set. But and then the other stuff that I think Holy Grails for me, here to kind of put a bow on the collecting, or the first of probably many collecting episodes.
Yes.
Is just stuff that I have that's like I'd like to get that signed one day.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have wrestling figures. Like I'd like to get that signed one day. Most of them I've gotten signed, but like I have a Taz figure. It's like I'd like to get Taz to sign that one day. I have different books. Like I have the first Grant Morrison JLA. It's like I'd like to meet Grant and have him sign that now.
Yeah,
I know without it getting witnessed, it kills the value, but I don't care. I just want Grant to sign it. I have some various NASCAR diecasts. It's like I'd like to meet the driver and have him autograph that. Yeah. That's pretty much outside of comics where I'm at with collecting. Is just I'd like to get that signed one day. Whether or not it happens remains to be seen, but there is a lot of just wanting to use things as a canvas for an autograph.
Oh, absolutely. And then it's like you'll get people of like different things. I've gotten pretty consolidated on stuff that I get signed. This is not going to be the biggest one, but for like they're basically checking off your item listings where you just have them off to display, where you're not exactly sharing them around the house, but it's like you go to all these things and you want to get signed. I'm like, yes, they're all pretty nice and in a folder and on the shelf. That way, when I get them signed, I can slit them in there, get them all down, and then have them nice and protected. Eventually, I want to get away. Like, I have the exact setup basement like you have there, where I'm eventually going to get things and get them all situated, but it's when I have a collection of a set of things done that I can actually arrange it. Because that's one thing that I guess that we can kind of stop this on. Everyone asks, how do you know what to collect? Where do you know where you're going to put it? You figure that out as you go.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Don't just be like, I want to have the cool like you did. I didn't know how I wanted to set it up when I got it. I just bought the thing and started. That's how it all starts.
Yes.
You never have a plan. And if you do, it normally never works.
And at this point now, like, especially after moving, from my old house to my new house, and I'm to the point now like where statues and figures, it's like, I still love them. I still want to buy them, but I don't want like now like I've gotten to the like I had to haul all those over. Some broke on the move, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want to do that again. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't buy as many statues. I'll still to me what's cooler to collect now is not the high-end expensive figures or the high-end expensive statues. It's literally going to a convention, having the guy with the tote full of old figures and going, oh, there's a Rogue, there's a
Yeah.
Gambit, there's a Shawn Michaels, there's a Stone Cold Steve Austin, and they have prices like taped to them. They're like, okay, well that's Stone Cold's $10. Oh, that Gambit's $3. You know, that to me is more like what I go after now more than the high end statues. Not saying those high end statues aren't amazing.
No.
And if I had a mansion and
Yeah.
I had, a way that I know they'd be taken care of forever, I'd get them. I'd
Mm-hmm.
buy all of them. But
Mm-hmm.
once again, between a shelf collapsing and your heart breaking right in front of your eyes, between moving and like, oh, Black Canary's perpetually giving you the finger because her two of her fingers came off, so she's like doing this now, which is a fun story, but you don't like to see that happen to your shit,
No, you don't.
um, and stuff like that. I've just gotten away from the statues, and to me, it's more fun going like, "Hey, look, I found a Shawn Michaels figure from 1997 for $6 in this tote." you know,
Yeah. No, I get you on that. It's everybody gets there, and it's not even like I get godded so damn bad by like video game pre-orders because I'm a guy who loves physical editions and stuff like
oh
that. And
yeah,
I'll be like, all right, I don't have a whatever. I'm like, okay, I'm a big Resident Evil fan, and like these remakes have really like basically had my wallet out and flapping in their direction because every time one comes out, they're like, hey. Here's a really accessible, easy to put together, and easily posable, not falling over version of that character you've liked since 1996. And it's only an extra $80. I'm like, if I don't get it now, I'm gonna have to pay like $300 for it later.
yep,
Ugh.
yeah,
But like, yeah, like that one I told you, that Prime One Studios, that was one where you're talking about like dropping $1,000 and stuff on something. That's where one of those where they're always going to be like, you're really pretty.
yeah,
And eventually one day, if I have a tax return, I don't need to spend, maybe.
yeah,
But until then, no.
exactly. But yeah, that is. I mean, there's so much more we could talk about, but we're gonna put a button on this one because we could be here for hours just flexing on the shit that we don't need that we've acquired. But thank you all for tuning in and indulging because this was an extremely self-serving
It is.
episode.
It is.
In indulging us in our our nerdy flex. But also, in addition, on my social media pages, I'm gonna throw out to you. What are your crown jewels? What are your
Yeah.
things that you collected that you really like? Uh, Post a picture of it on my facebook.com/athleticgeek89 or tag me in it on the one app with owned by the guy nobody likes at athletic_geek89. Send them our way. Let's talk about it
Yeah.
together. We please tell us what you've collected, show us what
Yeah.
you've collected, and join in. And you've got social media where you'd like to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone who's got old ass Zoids, Gunplas, freaking Gundams, anyone who's got old Power Rangers collectibles. I have a friend that has the original giant ass version of the Tiger Zord in battle mode with like the flexible limbs and shit that I want from him so bad, but he will not give it up. Just like old school, anything like that. Tag it, all that at Organoid Zero. Twitch, YouTube, the social media page formerly known as Twitch. I have Blue Sky. Any of you who are cosplayers or go to conventions a lot, my Instagram at Organoid Zero is where all that stuff is at. And yeah, that's all I got.
All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in. We will see you next time.
See ya.